Hi everyone, this is Jim Piekarski, and I teach meditation and give Dharma talks at the Blue Lotus Meditation Center here in Venice, Florida. Today we're going to talk about questioning the thought stream. Our conditioned mind, the thought stream, sometimes called the karmic mind, is the source of samsara, the source of suffering, the source of our delusions. The conditioned mind basically is a set of habitual thoughts and the set of habitual emotional reactions to these thoughts. So we have beliefs and thoughts in our thought stream that occur. Some of these beliefs and thoughts are quite strong and create emotional reactions inside of us. A lot of these emotional reactions are painful. Um, so there's two parts of the conditioned mind. One part is just the self-talk you hear going through your mind. It goes all day long. And the other part is hidden. It's the unconscious. And sometimes this will only come up in certain situations. Something will trigger it, and all of a sudden you'll see a part of your thought stream you may not even have known was there. But all of a sudden it'll come to the surface. When it comes to the surface, only then can we deal with it. Otherwise, we don't even know it's there. The conditioned mind is different than the rational mind. The rational mind is purposive thought. We're really trying to problem solve or do something. Sometimes the rational mind can be in service to the ego, which is part of the conditioned mind. When that happens, the conditioned mind is just focused on trying to make money, be famous, or something like that. But typically, the rational mind is just a tool that we can use and is different than the automatic, conditioned, and habitual conditioned mind. One of the things about the conditioned mind is that a lot of it comes up and it influences our actions, our feelings, our thoughts, our emotions, and it can lead to a lot of problems in our lives. So one of the ways to deal with the conditioned mind is to be able to question each thought that arises, to get into the habit of questioning our thoughts. The ability to question our own thoughts is a major skill in creating happiness for ourselves. And it's a major skill in dealing with delusion and samsara. People who can't question their thoughts or don't question their thoughts are miserable. All of us can do better at this, but some people have a real hard problem because a lot of times what they're thinking is very negative. And if they just believe it, they're going to have the accompanying negative feelings. So this is really all part of the progressive path. The progressive path really has to do with changing our thought stream, changing it into a thought stream that creates more happiness for us. We want to improve the thought stream. So what we're really looking at is an antidote, and we're looking for an antidote for a particular problem. The problem is that we tend to automatically believe what we think. And when we automatically believe what we think, we get taken for a ride. And if it's a negative thought, it'll take us to a negative place. So our beliefs come from our experience, what we've been told, our backgrounds, how we've been treated, all kinds of personal things. So, one belief that we have is that we look outward for happiness. We live in a materialistic culture, but this is the habit pattern of people, and particularly of people who are not very developed spiritually. Because part of spiritual development is to start looking inward, because you start realizing that the problems really are from mistaken points of view that you're holding in your own mind, and that you're creating your own suffering through what you believe and what you think. But if you're making the transition and you're looking inward, it is a major transition, because all of a sudden you're starting to take responsibility for your own happiness rather than thinking that it's going to come from the outside someplace. But most people are lost in their thoughts. They're unaware of how negative and distorted their thinking is. Meditation can help with this because meditation helps you get a little distance on your own thoughts and you can kind of see what they are and examine them a bit. The main ways that we think that causes pain center around the self. So there's in psychology there's three basic beliefs that tend to create more problems for us psychologically. These three beliefs are number one is I am bad. I am bad belief usually comes from abuse or getting into trouble as a child. It really has to do with our being. I am bad. It is a false belief because no one is bad. But it's an interesting thing because once you believe that you're bad, a lot of times there will be a self-fulfilling prophecy. And people who believe they're bad can end up as criminals because they just think that that's their fate. They don't realize that it's something that has been conditioned into them. A second one is more about doing. The first one was about being, I am bad. The second one's about doing. And the negative belief here is I am incompetent. So this usually occurs because people are criticized as children. And maybe they're a failure in school, maybe they had a hard time in school for one reason or another, and they got a feeling that they're incompetent. Maybe when they did something, they were always criticized about the results. It's really about a negative belief about one's capacity to do things. So I am unlovable is the third one. So we had being, which is I am bad, doing, which is I am incompetent, and now loving, I am unlovable. Feeling that you're unlovable usually takes place because of rejection by parents or others, abandonment, neglect. This can make one feel that they're unlovable. And when you feel you're unlovable, a lot of times it will create a self-fulfilling prophecy. You may actually choose people that can't love you, because on some level you're so desperate for love that this blocks your natural capacity to suss people out and see exactly if they're worthy of of your getting in a relationship with them. I'm incompetent also has a self-fulfilling prophecy. A lot of times it can make us make mistakes and we lack confidence, so we have a hard time developing ourselves too. So one thing we need to do is we need to really check our thinking in these situations. Byron Katie has an interesting thing called the 4 questions. What we do is apply the 4 questions to our thinking to make sure that our thinking is true and straight. So her 4 questions are, is it true? Question 1. Because we automatically accept everything we think, we have to ask this question again. So the question 2 is, can you absolutely be sure that it's true? Can you absolutely know it's true? This can take us a little deeper in our questioning. And then the third one is, how do you react? What happens when you believe that thought? So what are the consequences of believing this? What happens to you emotionally? What do you tend to do because of this? And if you didn't have this thought, who would you be? What would you be without this thought? How would you feel? What would you do? How would it affect your life? So by using the 4 questions, and I really encourage people to go to her site, thework.org, so you can learn to do this. This is an essential skill for happiness. It's something that psychotherapists teach in cognitive behavioral therapy. Byron Katie has taken it and made it a simple format for most people to use on their spiritual search. But it's fundamental to happiness. If we can't question our thoughts, basically we are subject to them. And our thoughts can be all over the place. But certainly they can be negative and distorted and just basically wrong. One thing that helps in this is meditation. If you can learn to meditate, you can get a little distance on your thoughts, and then you might be able to recognize them more quickly when they arise. Um, so, developing the skill to be able to question your thoughts is fundamental to happiness. It's also fundamental to this spiritual path. One thing on the spiritual path we want to do is we want to get rid of delusion so that we can see the world as it is. Well, the delusion comes from our own distorted thoughts. It comes from our own conditioned mind. So we have to be able to question these things that come up in our own mind. If we can't question those things, then we are totally subject to them. And we will suffer the pain of our experience of believing and thinking these things. Okay, thank you. Good luck with this.